Hello, I will talk about the September 11 attacks. The September 11 attacks, also known as 9/11 and under the name of the Twin Disaster, were a series of suicide attacks that occurred in the United States, which are considered the largest and deadliest terrorist attacks in the history of mankind and the largest attack on American soil. These attacks led the United States and other countries to the war in Afghanistan from 2001 to 2014, and the global war on Islamic terrorism of the George Walker Bush administration. On the morning of Tuesday, September 11, 2001, 19 terrorists who belonged to the Islamist terrorist organization Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 passenger planes. The hijackers flew 2 of the planes, United Airlines Flight 175 and American Airlines Flight 11, and deliberately crashed them into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. The damage to the South Tower was broadcast live to millions of viewers around the world, as was the collapse of the towers, which collapsed in less than 2 hours. The third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, was crashed by the hijackers into the Pentagon building in Arlington, Virginia. The terrorists intended to crash the 4th plane, United Airlines Flight 93, into the White House or the Capitol building in Washington, but the plane finally crashed in an open field near Charlottesville, Pennsylvania, after the plane's passengers were aware of the incident and a fight broke out between them and the hijackers. 2,977 civilians, passengers and crew of the 4 planes perished in these attacks, and more than 6,000 were injured. The 19 terrorists who hijacked the 4 planes were also killed. The United States immediately placed the responsibility for the attacks on the Al-Qaeda organization, but it was not until 2004 that the organization's leader, Osama bin Laden, accepted responsibility for carrying out the attacks after 3 years of denial. Among the reasons for the attacks, bin Laden listed the United States support for Israel, the presence of the American military in Saudi Arabia, and the sanctions against Iraq. The response of the United States to the attacks of September 11 was the opening of the war on terror and an invasion of Afghanistan with the aim of overthrowing the government of the Taliban, the patron of Al-Qaeda. Following the attacks, the global attitude towards terrorism changed, and many countries enacted new laws to combat terrorism and also expanded the powers, scope, and equipment of law enforcement forces. After years of hunting, bin Laden was located and killed in May 2011. The demolition of the Twin Towers led to a deep damage to the Manhattan economy, along with a significant impact on global markets. The clearing of the World Trade Center area from the extensive destruction was only completed in May 2002. The Pentagon was renovated within about a year. Memorial sites were established at the sites of the attacks in New York, the Pentagon, and Pennsylvania. The 1,776 foot tall Freedom Tower was erected at Ground Zero as the year of the Declaration of Independence of the United States. Now I will talk about the reactions around the world. The attacks were condemned in the world media, and governments all over the world condemned these attacks. Support, aid, and solidarity were offered to the United States from a multitude of countries. The European Union's foreign ministers met for an emergency meeting the day after the attack and discussed issuing a joint statement of condemnation. Many of the leaders of the Union expressed sympathy with the United States. German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder described the attacks as a declaration of war on the civilized world. The British Prime Minister Tony Blair pledged that his country would stand by the United States in the war on terror, and the French newspaper Le Monde was published the day after the attacks with the headline, "We are all Americans," appearing on its front page. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, said that he supports a strong response against the barbaric acts. Similar prominent condemnations were heard from many other countries such as New Zealand, Cuba, China, Mexico, and India. The Prime Minister of Israel, Ariel Sharon, urged the world to fight terrorism and declared a national day of mourning as a sign of solidarity with the United States. The Knesset held a special meeting on September 16 to show solidarity with the American people. In the summary statement of the meeting, which was approved by all the parties except the Arab parties, it was written as follows. 1. The Knesset of Israel bows its head in sadness and shares in deep sorrow of the American nation, which in recent days has involved many of its citizens in despicable terrorist attacks by Bnei Belial who lack any human image. 2. The Knesset considers these terrible terrorist attacks, which were carried out with satanic intent and with the aim of killing innocent civilians, another illustration of the shared destiny between the people of Israel and the people of the United States. 3. The Knesset points out that the acts of terrorism directed against the free world in the United States reveal the longing and the roots of the fundamentalists, sons of darkness, and fanatical Islamist terrorist networks, wherever they may be, in their brutal struggle against man's freedom and values. 4. The Knesset condemns and denounces the joyous celebration of the supporters of terrorism couldn't help themselves, and while overseas counted the bodies of innocent citizens, the latter choose to dance on the blood of the dead. 5. The Knesset sees terrorism as the primary strategic threat to world peace, and strengthens the hands of the administration and the President of the United States in their decision to embark on a determined fight to eradicate terrorism. To eradicate terrorism, its planners, preachers, encouragers, and sponsors all its carriers. We are all soldiers in the campaign against global terrorism, and no member of culture may declare his refusal to serve in this heavy campaign. 6. In these days, the people of Israel identify with the American people, and from Jerusalem the prayer is sent full of faith. Even though I go through the valley of death, I will fear no evil, because you stand by me. Reactions in the Arab world, on the other hand, were mixed. Most of the countries condemned the attack, including Egypt, Jordan, Libya, Syria, Iran, and Pakistan. The president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, said shortly after the attack that the American cowboys are reaping the fruits of their crimes against humanity, but later expressed his condolences to the American people. The Palestinian Authority condemned the attack, but a short time later, about 3,000 Palestinians took to the streets of Nablus, bursting into celebrations, shouting Allah Akbar, and handing out sweets. Celebrations were also seen in several Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon. The photos of the celebrating Palestinians were broadcast on the media all over the world and caused an uproar. The Palestinian Minister of Information Yasser Abed-Rabo issued a statement in which he claimed that the celebrations are of a minority that doesn't represent the true feelings of the Palestinian people. Many Saudi citizens sympathized with bin Laden's goals, while their government officially condemned the attacks. In many countries, including the United States, tension between Muslim and non-Muslim residents rose after the attacks. UN Security Council Resolution 1268 condemned the attacks and expressed a readiness to take all necessary steps to respond and fight any form of terrorism. Several countries passed anti-terrorism laws and froze bank accounts suspected of being connected to Al-Qaeda. The level of suspicion and anxiety rose all over the world, has increased the number of people arrested on suspicion of involvement in planning or carrying out terrorist acts. Tens of thousands tried to flee Afghanistan for fear of the expected American response. Neighboring Pakistan, where many Afghan refugees were already staying due to previous political conflicts, closed its border with Afghanistan several days after the attacks. About a month after the attacks, the United States led a coalition of international military forces to Operation Enduring Freedom, better known as Afghanistan War, with the aim of overthrowing the Taliban regime in the country, which gave the Al-Qaeda organization a comfortable and fertile ground for its activities. This was the opening shot of the global war on terror. Although the Pakistani authorities refrained from officially siding with the United States in its war against the Taliban, they allowed the coalition forces to settle in their military bases and even arrested and handed over to the United States more than 600 Pakistani Al-Qaeda operatives. As a result, the United States established the detention facility of Guantanamo, where detainees defined as illegal hostile militants were held. The legitimacy of the arrest raised many question marks among the European Union and various human rights organizations. Thank you very much.